Hey Internet, or rather should I say, ni hao. It's your old friend Dominic here with the All-American Casino Guide, and today we're talking about Chinese poker. Guys, make sure to check out the rest of our channel. We have tons of tips, tricks, tutorials, and trivia about casinos and casino games. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell like Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, because you do not want to miss any of the exciting notifications and future videos that we're going to have in the near future. So first things first, I'd like to talk about a little bit of a history lesson on the game of Chinese poker. It's another one of those games where the origins are steeped in myth and legend, and some people claim the game is over 1,000 years old, predating any of the other versions of poker. I find that kind of dubious, and I think more likely what you're seeing here is a hybridization of poker that made its way over to a primarily Chinese audience. So the game is a lot like Pai Gow, and some people, like I said, think the game originated around the same time as Pai Gow. But it's a great game for beginners or even experienced players who might just have a bad poker face, because inherently the only thing you really need to understand with the game of Chinese poker is the poker hands themselves and how they're ranked. The rest is a bunch of bonus structure of point scoring. And this game doesn't really have betting in the traditional sense of the word. Instead, you pay points in the form of monetary units to the other players when you compare your hands. Let's get into how we form those hands and how we decide if they pay out or not. So I want to start with the very basics of the game. So what's important to know is that every player is dealt 13 cards from a single deck of standard playing cards. So the maximum number of players you can have is 4. 4 times 13 being 52, which is the exact number of cards in a standard deck of playing cards. You get 13 cards, and you need those cards to form 3 hands, one being the top hand, which is 3 cards, the middle hand, which will be 5 cards, and the bottom hand, which is another 5 cards. Another important thing is that your hands need to be ascending in value. So your bottom hand, the third revealed hand, needs to be the strongest of the 3 hands, with your middle hand being stronger than your bottom, your top, and your top hand being the weakest hand overall. All right? So let's go ahead and do an example, and you can see what that looks like. So, like I said, this game can be played between 2 to 4 players. So to keep it simple, we're gonna go ahead and just have 2 imaginary players. So I deal 13 cards to each player. 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All right, so we have these 13 cards dealt to both players, and now we need to see how each player is going to build their hands. So I'll start with this imaginary player 1 and what their potential hands are. So the easiest thing in my experience to do is to look at all the cards you have. So let's go ahead and spread those out nice so you can see the range. And you want to think about what is the best possible hand you can make. So this is good practice, for, like I said, for inexperienced players who are just starting to learn the hands. So right off the top of I see here I have a pair of kings, pair of queens, a jack, a 10, and an ace. So that looks like I could make a straight. So that would be a really good hand. Of course, a flush beats a straight, so check for any flushes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 clubs. Unfortunately, can't pull that off. And I think I have the same number, 3, 4 spades. So it does not look like I have any flush possibilities. So with this hand, my best hand is going to be a queen, a king, a jack, a 10, and an ace to form a straight. This would be a royal straight or just an ace high straight. I'm going to make that my 3rd highest hand. I'll put that face down for right now. Then I need to think about a hand that's slightly better. So I got a pair of 8s here. That's pretty good. That's pretty much the best hand I can do because I don't have a 6 to make another straight or anything like that. So a pair of 8s, pretty weak hand. So I'm going to go ahead and just take these kings, queens. No, I'll keep the king for my low hand. And there, we'll take that for my middle hand. And we seal off our 3 hands. So obviously, simultaneous to me deciding what my hands would be, I would have this player right here would be secretly building their own hands. So we can see what they have just as some extra practice here. Spread those cards out so you can kind of see. Looks like I have, some really rough cards here. Looks like I have 2 3s, 2 6s. Let's see, ace 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like I have a straight. That's pretty good. No 10s. Let's see, don't have a set. Okay, so it looks like I check for flushes now. 3, 4, 5. Okay, I have a flush here. I have 5 diamonds. Okay, so that's obviously the best hand I can make. Put that right there. My middle hand is going to be, let's see. I have another 5. Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome. I have another 5 cards here that makes another flush, 5 spades. And then, didn't know why, so I didn't see that right off the bat. And then I'm just going to go ahead with an ace high. Now, it's what's important to know that I didn't talk about earlier is that your top hand, the hand that only has 3 cards, straights and flushes do not count. But they do count for as far as who wins the hand. So even if I had a 3rd heart here, this would not be a flush. It would simply be ace high. Which is not a very good hand at all. And if, for example, this was a king, I would not have a straight. But it's important to note that flushes and straights on the top hand can actually be worth some extra money. Or sorry, rather, on the bottom hands, straights or betters are worth extra money, but a pair of 6s on the top hand can actually be worth some money as well. Okay, top, middle, bottom. What's important to know about this game, though, is it's not simply a comparison of hand strengths, where if I have the better hand, I win that particular hand. It's more important also to know that there are certain bonus structures where you will be awarded bonus points, which translates to monetary units depending on the agreed upon amount. So with your top hand, which is the first 3-card hand, if you have a pair of 6s or better, there is a bonus point awarded. And with your bottom hand, which is the last 5-card hand you reveal, there is a bonus structure that starts at straights or better. So if you have straights, flush, full house, 4 of a kind, royal flush, straight flush, there is different awarded points that come when you have such powerful hands. So now it's time for the showdown of sorts, where we're going to reveal hands and potentially take bonuses on either the top hand or the bottom hand, as I discussed. So if I had a pair of 6s or better on the top hand, I would be getting a bit of a bonus, but it's more right now just a comparison of the 2 hands. So I have a king high here and an ace high here, so player 2 wins this hand. All right, now we reveal our middle hands. We've established that we have a king high flush, and then on player number 1, all they had was that single pair of 8s. All right, so that, again, they lose those points right there. And then on the 3rd hand, player number 2 has almost a straight flush. This is quite a travesty. 3, 4, 5, 6. We didn't have the 7 of diamonds or the 2 of diamonds, so it's just a flush, but that's still going to be better than the straight that I was able to accomplish for player number 1 with the cards available. All right, so this player has won, player 2 has won all hands, 1, 2, 3. So there's an additional sweeping bonus. The sweeping bonus is typically equal to the number of players of the table. So when you sweep, against 4 players, for example, you would give a sweeping bonus of 4, where if there's 3 players at the table, it's 3, 2, or 1. Never 1 player, obviously. That's respective to how many players there are at the table. Player number 2 won all 3 hands, the top, the middle, and the bottom. So that's 3 points plus a 2-point bonus for sweeping. So that's 5 points. They also, depending on the prearranged, agreed upon bonuses, would be receiving a bonus for the flush draw on the bottom hand. But the straight hand right here also would benefit from a bonus. So that is how Chinese poker is played, just as a quick example. Another thing I want to remind you that's very important is that your 3 hands, the top, the middle, and the bottom, all need to be increasing in hand rank value. So if I take this player 1, for example, he got a pair of 8s in the middle hand, and he finished off with a straight in his final hand, okay? Well, that's fine because you can see his 3 hands increase in value appropriately. But if for some reason you had done a misplay and you had accidentally placed your straight hand in the middle, you have fouled out and you typically have to pay 2 units to each other player for your misplay. So you want to be very careful to pay attention and realize that your 3 hands each increase in value as far as hand ranks go, because this would be high card, straight, 1 pair, and that obviously is not correct. So you be careful with that one. So the game gets a little bit more complicated when you have 3 or 4 players, because each player in turn has to compare their hand against each other opponent in order to determine how much in units the opponent needs to pay to them in respect to their various 3 hand strengths. And with bonus points, this game becomes incredibly swingy. So you can see swings as much as 30 units in a single hand. So it should become pretty obvious that the game is unlike poker in that there's no bluffing and there's no proper betting structure to it. It doesn't really have the element of gambling or mathematical analysis that you see in traditional poker or Texas Hold'em. It really boils down to mostly luck. But as I said, this is a great game for any inexperienced players who are still trying to figure out the actual hand ranks. This is great practice in how hand ranking works. And also, I think it's also a good game maybe for the experienced players who don't necessarily have a great poker face but still feel they're very lucky so that they can play this kind of game. It's worth noting there is a variation on this game known as sometimes open face Chinese poker or Russian poker or even Russian Chinese poker that was thought to have been introduced by Alex Kravchenko, who was a poker player who came from Finland and went to Russia, and it was thought that he actually introduced the game over there. But essentially the rules of the game remain completely the same, except with open face Russian or Russian Chinese poker, whatever you want to call it. Players start off by being dealt 5 cards where they form into one of the 3 hands, and then they reveal those hands to each respective opponent, essentially then making their hands revealed to the table. And then you get 8 more cards that are revealed one at a time in order to see how you're building your hands, and your opponents can see how you're building your hands too. So it puts an interesting level of skill and challenge and suspense into the game. I kind of like it versus it's this non-climactic showdown of sorts that happens in traditional Chinese poker. Because like I said, in traditional Chinese poker, you just kind of reveal your hands and then there's a payout. It's very straightforward. There's just nothing but luck. Why open face Russian or Russian Chinese poker, you have this moment of suspense. You don't know what's going to happen next, and you keep revealing cards and you're building, and you have to make sure your hands are following that same structure where you go from the lowest rank to the highest rank. So it's quite interesting to watch how your hands play, and you get kind of locked into positions where you have to play certain cards in certain positions because you need your hands to follow that pattern. So that concludes this introduction to the game of Chinese poker. Make sure to check out the rest of the channel. We have a ton of great videos on other versions of poker like Texas Hold'em and Omaha. While you're there, you're also going to want to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other videos we have coming in the near future. Make sure to click that bell icon too so you get the notifications, because in the future, we're going to be doing a video talking about open face poker, open face Chinese poker, the kind I was talking about earlier, which I do find to be a more interesting variation on the game. Make sure also, guys, if it's not too much trouble, to leave a comment down below. Tell us what you thought about this game and any other questions you have for the channel. Slam that like button too, because it really helps us know that you guys enjoy what you're seeing. My name's Dominic. This is the All-American Casino Guide reminding you, play responsibly.